Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get this meeting started. It's 5:35 p.m. This is a regular, actually it says special meeting because they changed the date, but it should be a replacement of a regular meeting of the Board of Directors for the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 1. We're at City Hall, City Council Chambers, 1110 Houston Street. Calling this meeting to order. I appreciate everybody that's here and made time to join us at the meeting, both the board, city staff, and our consulting team. Thank you very much. Everyone, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Moving on to roll call, item 3. Mr. Campos, would you help us with roll call?
Yes, Mr. Ceballos. So we have Mr. Justin Heather.
Here.
Jose Castillo.
Here.
I'll make that clarification.
Okay. Mr. Orlando Navarro. Mr. Wilfredo Martinez.
Present.
Mr. Jose Ceballos.
Here.
And Ms. Carol Alexander.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, we are excited to welcome our new director of finance. As everybody understands, the TERS bylaws, which are by ordinance, designate the director of finance as a prescriptive member of this board. So along with congratulating Mr. Mark DeMay, who's a recent hire by the city of Laredo, pleased to welcome you to this group. You're coming at a good time. We're right before we put out a solicitation to get most of our projects out there. So welcome, congratulations. We look forward to working with you as a board and also as an individual in terms of our roles in our other areas. There's a few of us that are private members serving on this board, and we have some staff. So thank you. I'd like to do some intros in a little bit, but at the same time, I'd like to thank Mr. Castillo for all his work, his guidance to our group. I know along the way he's provided us a baseline really guide and counsel for all the things finance and also in terms of just procedurally how we do things and carry things out. We haven't spent much money yet, but I appreciate your guidance. I appreciate your availability too in accommodating the meetings, Mr. Castillo, but you've been great. And I find, and obviously what's happening today is there's a transition. So both of you are extreme value. You're both going to be here. So we have now an extended asset in both Mr. Mays and Mr. Castillo for this group. So with that, I'll first extend the board to make any board members that would like to make any comments. And then I'd like to do intros and get everybody on the record. So for both ways, so Mr. Mays actually gets to see and learn who's here and what your role is talking about our city staff, but also our consulting team before we get this meeting started. So we'll first go to any board members that want to make any comments. Justin? No?
Welcome. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
Here you got a month left. He's got a month left, but he retires to greener pastures. Enjoy life.
Thank you very much.
For everything.
I didn't realize you were retiring. So
Yeah, he's leaving.
Okay, well, I still feel the same way about it, and I know at the end of it all, you'll be a great asset to, and you have been to our community, and we'd like to celebrate your retirement in a very near future here on behalf of this board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Castillo. You are, from day one, I think, you're an original member of this board. I think the only one here.
I don't think so. No, I came in maybe, 5 years ago, replacing Martin Aleman.
Oh.
He was a former board
man.
member.
I thought
No.
there was still an originalist here.
No,
So none. Well, enjoy your retirement.
thank you.
Want to make?
Hopefully you'll spend a lot of time walking downtown in the new.
Enjoy.
Yeah, he's not getting
what
too
we're
far-
about
too
to
far
do.
away.
You
Yes.
know.
Exactly.
Going into the meetings, church meetings.
Oh, yeah, you can come.
Yeah, you'll be eligible for private sector service on this board. Mr. DeMay, would you want to make some remarks?
Well, I do want to thank everybody, and I look forward to serving here and do what we can to help the city. I'm glad to be here. And so thank you, everybody. I look forward to working with you.
Great, thank you, welcome. So if we could start with the city staff and then with the consultants, just so, I'm sure you already know him, but just for the record, just indicate who you are and your role with the TERS.
So, Tina Martinez, Community Development Director. I work as the liaison to the TERS number 1.
Edgar Campos, Compliance Officer for the Community Development Department, and I'm assisting Tina as well with as the liaisons of the TERS.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcela Cervantes. I'm the Programs Administrator for the Department of Community Development, and I'm here also to assist.
In a brand new recent appointment role, right?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Behind you.
Genesis Garcia, Project Coordinator with the City of Dorado.
Great, and then Rick and
To
Edward.
what? To project coordinator for what?
Project Coordinator for Community Development.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Rick Solis with Able City. We are the TERS's administrative consultant. So we pretty much, all the stuff that the city doesn't do, we sort of take it over. So we're here to just assist in, we put together agendas or help it with agendas, presentations. We provide a monthly update. So we're here, we sort of do all the other stuff for the TERS.
You're also the architectural.
Yes,
Team.
and we're also part of the architectural team and are working on the design guidelines for the TERS as well.
Good afternoon, welcome. My name is Edward Ochoa. I'm with KCI Technologies. We're the civil engineering firm that was awarded the design portion of the first phase of the TERS Sidewalk Downtown Improvements Project. So we've been working on the design hand in hand with the architect team and everybody else to try to get a set of plans that we can put out to bid, like Mr. Ceballos said, very soon. So we're here to serve.
Good afternoon, Andrea de Anda with KCI Technologies. I'm the graduate engineer in this project.
Thank you very much. I think that's everybody. All right, so with that, we'll move on the agenda. Item 4 is minutes, approval of minutes for July 11, 2023. Those are, I know you just received this in your packets. I'm not sure if the minutes got out before today. Were they circulated?
Yes, I sent him out Friday.
Okay, great.
Was it, I didn't receive them. I didn't receive anything on Friday.
We can resend them. It might have been a newer email. It was from a newer email. It was no longer from Camila Rodarte. So maybe that's
Oh,
my.
well, yeah, but I searched, just.
But we can resend it. And we'll verify that we have your email correct.
Whenever the board is ready, I'll entertain a motion on the item.
Motion to approve.
It's been moved to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Been seconded by Mr. Martinez. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. If you find something you want to bring back, after you read them, Ms. Alexander, or anyone, just let us know and we'll bring the item back at the next meeting. The next item is citizens' comments. I don't see any other members of the public here. But citizens are required to fill out a witness card no later than 5:45 p.m. Those can be found here at City Hall chambers. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Do you have any cards? No comment cards? We still have, I guess, we started a little late, and if somebody comes in the next 5 minutes, we'll allow them to speak. All right. Moving on to the next item, item 6, discussion on any downtown-related effort or activity of board members' interest or concern. So, Mr. Demay, we have this standing item that whenever a board member wants to talk on something that doesn't really, that we didn't have enough time to put on the agenda, or just something new that doesn't require any action, or at the time, we have that standing item. So if you have something relevant to our downtown mission, there's always that standing item where we can discuss it. So, anybody have any item that's not on the agenda that they want to discuss?
Well, I would like to reiterate my concern regarding the lack of policies and procedures that are connected to landscape. And if we are gone out for that $50 million grant, the USDA, correct?
Yes, the fruit
For
forest.
the trees. And there is no, I requested, I spoke with Ms. Martinez about the last couple of meetings to request what and then I myself visited the park a couple of times last month. It was quite an unpleasant experience. And so I requested that the policies, whatever the procedure is for cleaning the park and also for maintaining the trees, because my conversation down there with some of the store owners is that the trees are dying or dead, gone, in front of the federal post office that's there. And then there's other trees that are just dying dead. So I'm hoping that we could come together, right, to create some kind of procedure that would systematically tend to the landscape downtown.
Okay. Ms. Martinez, is there a protocol or a procedure for those plazas and other?
So I did pose a question to our Public Works Department and our Parks Department as well as your city manager. We did get response from Public Works and from from Public Works and from Parks Department directors. There is no formal process. They do have a schedule. Well, I mean, they didn't provide me a formal process, but they did provide me their schedule just in an email saying for Parks Department, they are in charge of cleaning plazas and sidewalks, and the sidewalks of the plazas. They schedule cleanings of the daily except for weekends or unless there's a special event. The trees that are in plazas are maintained by the Parks Department. As for irrigation, the trees in the plazas do have irrigation system, specifically along the Tangelo Parkway. The other trees downtown, they could not confirm if they had irrigation. The Public Works Department basically responded that they do all the other sidewalks that Parks doesn't do in the downtown area. That was their response in an email. I did not receive any formal process other than that update.
All right, what would be your advice in following up to that? Like an on-site visit or channeling through the city manager? What would be the best route?
So again, I remind the board, you could always request things from the city manager. This is an operational request. It's just,
Okay.
you can request information and
Or-
wait their response.
I did receive, I requested through open records, the
Okay.
policies and procedures, and I did receive a procedure of sorts that had no form. I imagined it would come like, a government procedure with a department in charge, a letterhead or a logo, page numbers. It wouldn't come in a Word doc that I could change. And with a schedule. Anyway, it caused great concern because of the lack of reliability, I guess, accountability and the trees, just like the park. And I know that I'm not slamming them. I know it's a lot of work, and it's easier when there's a formal procedure. it's easier to manage, 5,000 trees. But when there's not one, it's just, it's management by personality, not by procedure, and that's not
Okay. Well,
efficient.
I think one other board member, did you want to comment, Mr. Martinez, or?
No, I was gonna say, we should formally request that information from the city manager.
I did. I formally requested that through open records.
Oh, he's suggesting
I
to the
got
city
an
manager.
official. city-
I was suggesting us
board.
formally requesting it.
As a
That
board.
makes a
So what I can
difference.
do is I can make that request, and then once we actually take a look at it, if it seems that there isn't a firm policy in place, and we can make some suggestions, and then he or the council member can adopt those policies based on our recommendations.
Yes, you can always provide as a board a recommendation.
I like how we handled the plaza, right? The whole plaza angled parking is.
Correct.
We made our recommendation, now it's up to city
Them,
manager or the
yes.
council member to execute.
It's up to the city to implement those
Right.
type of operational requests.
I'm hoping that, connected to that, using that as a model, that this board will make a request or a suggestion, at least, to assist in getting the business district operating, because best practices in every other city, a TERS board that spends money without the sustainable
The operative side of it.
the sustainable group in place or management system to sustain what's being built is irresponsible.
Right, I agree.
It's irresponsible spending to build, to fix the sidewalks, put the lights up, plant the trees, and not have something already in place to sustain that going forward.
Maintain it.
Maintenance, yeah, operations, I agree.
And this board could make that recommendation. There is a business district that is already created. It's been alive for many years. It has not been funded, and it could use some support, I guess.
Can you share what was released to you, with this
I-
board?
Yeah, and I had it in a folder, but
Okay.
I was at the office and my folder was
Yeah.
at home, and I apologize for not bringing it.
I'll still make a formal request to the city manager, and then we can go from there.
And it came in email, I can
Okay.
share it with you.
Great. Anything else on this item or any other? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item 7. This is an administrative status update on ongoing work items, including listed below. This is another standing item. Most of the items that are here today at this meeting, I'm just saying this for Mr. Demay's purpose, or benefit, these are kind of standing items. Our administrative architectural firm reports on progress, so that kind of gives you the majority of the things that they're working on, and then if they have an update, they'll report on that as a presentation item, and then below are the actual action items. With that, I'll hand it over to Rick.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. Chairman. Rick Solis again with Able City. We have some updates on these items. On item A, the mural program, at the last, or maybe the meeting in June, we presented these options to everybody with regards to murals and storefronts. I think at the meeting, we were asked to approach the landowners. We have the list of landowners, we've compiled that list. We have not made contact with them yet, but we will be doing that later this week. But we've already identified all of the different owners for all these different sites. So we'll be moving forward with that, and we'll have probably an interim report. What we'll do is we'll share that information with the board during the week as we progress through these items. With regards to the wayfinding and monument markers.
Excuse me, Rick. So the goal would be then for the next meeting to have the final owners, which owners are ready, which ones are willing.
That's
that
correct,
kind of-
yes.
okay.
If
Go ahead, Ms. Alexander.
I thought we had kind of chatted about opening it up so that some of the downtown property owners, maybe if they were interested, could throw their hat in the ring, so to speak, so that it wouldn't be just, you know, assigned. I understand that there are strategic locations,
Right.
but that, I feel, and then part of my unrest here right now is because of something else I received connected to what's happening with parking, connected to the improvements at the Southern Hotel, and the lack of public engagement. And I realize it's difficult. I do. I recognize that. It's difficult, especially because there is no representative advocacy group for the central business district in this city. And if there was, it would be maybe a little easier. People might still feel left out, but right now, you saw the way that people really, the community really connected when there was the opportunity to vote on or express their opinions on the Iturbide sign. And we had a lot of activity, and there was a lot of connection with the community. But other than that, we haven't provided that opportunity, I think. And so I thought that the murals, we were gonna do something like that.
Well, we have our website established, and we have a page on there for the mural outreach. I think what we would ask then is, what can we do to sort of get the word out? I guess we can do the same thing that we did last time we worked with Main Street to kind of do a social media blast or something saying, hey, we're looking for locations for murals, go to this website and provide your information. I mean,
I thought it was a new city website.
We can certainly do that.
But I want to be clear, we did select the zone by way of board action. Like, we
Yes.
can't take input outside of this zone, because that's not what we approved and agreed upon.
Right, well, I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, again, we'll do whatever you guys ask us to do.
What do you mean the zone?
This area came to the board as a designated, targeted zone for the mural project.
Yeah, this
That was
was,
voted on.
yeah, this area was
Oh,
in conversations with.
Yeah, so anything in that space, that if there's a property owner interested within that demarked space, then I think that's a solid
Yeah,
request.
there's a lot of property owners there.
Yeah. There's a lot.
And there's property owners there who I know who have no idea what's going on in this room, month after month. Oh, so here's these are the identified murals, 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right. We had identified six areas for murals, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 areas for the storefronts.
And so this board was created to connect the cathedral to the mall in front of La Posada,
Yes.
down Zaragoza. And there's only one identified location on that street.
For storefront, but we're locating 4 murals potentially.
Oh,
The murals are the squares.
oh, okay. Oh, so that's where most of the murals are going?
Yes,
Okay.
correct, yes. Particularly the one as you exit from the bridge number 1. That wall.
So that big beige wall?
wall. And then the second one was the billboard.
Oh, did they agree to that?
Well, we're gonna
Oh,
approach them.
okay.
We're working on, so we've
Okay.
identified.
I'm
who
sorry, I
those-
was looking at the orange.
Yes,
dots.
the oranges are the storefronts, and those, again, we think the board had adopted a $50,000 budget for this project, so we think we can do more storefronts than murals. I mean, that's sort of the prevailing thought, but again, we'll be working through that aspect.
And the storefronts is
Either they,
Glass
either they,
fronts or-
they either put a
the
plywood,
stickers?
or they can do the stickers. I mean, there's options there for
Or
the storefronts.
plywood with art.
Yes, yeah. Because I do know that some of these businesses have like burglar bars, I guess. I mean, you can't really put the sticker on that, right? But there's some that don't have them that we could. So we'll work through that with the individual owners. And there's some businesses that are open there, so maybe it'll be easier for us to approach them as well.
All right, Rick, please continue on.
With regards to item B, the wayfinding and monument markers, there hasn't been a whole lot of movement on that. I will report that we did actually visit sign company in Austin, FSG, which we were very, Mr. Ceballos and I visited them. They are, we shared with them our wayfinding ideas that we had presented to the board previously, and they had some very interesting ideas. So we're currently working with them to see if we can get some design ideas and some ideas of cost so that we can come and present to the board. I don't remember if they said they were on buy board or not.
They said they were.
I think they are, so there might be the potential to just go with them through a buy board contract, if that's, I don't know if that's acceptable or not, but that's something that we can consider. So that's what we're working on right now with that. With regards to the grants on item C, I don't have a lot also to report on the MPO and TxDOT project, but I did want to bring something to the board's attention with regards to phase 2, which our MPO grant that we asked for was targeting Salinas Street from Water Street to Iturbide. We had a meeting with the fire department, I would say a couple weeks ago, and in that meeting, we were discussing about Iturbide and the different concepts that we wanted to do. And so they sort of approached us by saying that, well, this is great, you know, we want to work with you. We're giving you all a lot of variances on Iturbide Street so that so you guys can achieve what you're looking at. But they also reiterated after that to say, but moving forward in other locations, we may not be able to give you those variances. And so immediately my ears kind of perked up because phase 2 is Salinas Street, and we're doing a lot of the same concepts everywhere, right? With, you know, the parking on both sides and planters and trees, and I got the impression, and maybe it's not the right impression, but my impression was that we would not be allowed to do the same things that we're doing along Iturbide Street. So I guess what I'm asking the board, and I know there's no action that can be taken on this, but it's something to consider, that we maybe start looking at phase 2 from that aspect of, well, what can we do? Because we're going to get this grant money to design, and we're going to go, and then we're not going to be able to design what we are currently designing. So I think we would want to start investigating a few of those items with the fire department to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward, especially should that grant come through. So I would, again, I don't know if we can, I don't think we can take action on it, but I think it's something.
You just want to make the board aware that
Yes.
that's out there.
Yes, that's how they're feeling, correct. That what we're allowed to do on Iturbide, we may not be allowed to do on other blocks within the TERS zone. Now, I did ask for them to give me a list of variances so that we could start analyzing them. And the comment that I received, well, they're all variances, so it's like one big variance. I'm like, well, that doesn't really help, right? Again, they've been very, very helpful and easy to work with from that standpoint. But it was that particular comment that I just wanted to make the board aware that once phase 2 comes around, we may need to kind of think about how we want to approach that.
Can I just provide the board, in relation to that item, an update that I did receive an email from the MPO, one of the staffers, just acknowledging that TxDOT did receive our project information form, and then kind of reminding us what they've already told us in meetings, that they will have to evaluate our local government qualifications and provide approval for certain elements. Basically, what they told us in person, that they want to see how we're going to procure the groups or put this out in the solicitation. So I just want to make the board aware that the TxDOT reminded the MPO of that requirement and certain elements of the project, probably ADA, other things that, you know, they talked about relocation, where that was kind of a gray area on a one by one case basis. So I just want to let the board know that first they received our form, which is essentially saying that they've acknowledged the grant award from the TxDOT side, and reminded us that we will have to conform to some of their local government solicitation standards. Go ahead, Rick.
Item D, plaza parking alternative layout. I know that we had presented that layout. I think KCI had presented that. I think they had some discussions with our traffic department that were not maybe as well received as we would have liked. I know you had asked for Mr. Zavaz, you had asked for a copy of that presentation. I'm not sure if you were able.
Yeah, so I was joking earlier that I did get it out before this meeting, so I could tell the board that I finally got that email to the city manager and the council member with the recommendation that we acted on last month. So the city manager has that for the record, and the council member asking, basically saying, we voted on this, we support this, and we would like to see this implemented as soon as possible. And I'll make sure everybody gets a copy of that email. It's the email with Edward's exhibit denoting how we would gain 9 spaces along 2 sides of the Center for the Arts.
Right.
If I could add something connected to the parking.
So that was approved?
Yes, we voted on it. In terms of the design and layout, we voted on that, but now the city has to basically take our
Also, they're
advice.
deciding at this point.
Yes, they have to, I mean, we can't execute it as a board. It would take, the operative side of the city implementing it.
So there is because the Viva Laredo Comprehensive Plan included the topic of parking downtown. And following that, the city did commission and receive a parking study. And so there's a $70,000 parking study that's available for viewing. I can email it to you. And part of that study had some recommendations. And one of the recommendations was that there be a parking committee. And the parking committee was created, and there were 3 people on it, and it met 1 time. And so I'm hoping that this board also could recommend that the parking committee, because one of the primary reasons people give for not coming downtown is the perception that there's no parking. So if that parking committee could reconvene and begin to meet, potentially connected to the business district, that would be helpful for this community, this area, when projects are happening or when there's, I'm hoping we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's another operational question for the city as well.
Connected to my questions is, what department is in charge of
Traffic, there's a traffic.
the central business district? Not traffic in the whole city, but traffic in this area. Not parking in the whole city, but parking in this area. And which department is the one that's the liaison, the connection to the central business district?
I mean, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I think it's the traffic department that would be on traffic issues, right?
So
No,
the traffic department, well, I think it's a 2-part question.
Well, no, I'm not talking about traffic, trees, lighting, crime, tourism. I'm talking in general.
So right now, the traffic department does handle all parking anywhere in the city. So parking department is in charge of all parking, be it in the downtown area or anywhere else. They are responsible for, and then of course they have other duties under their department. Now, that your question on the central business district, I don't believe it's assigned to a department. I've checked on the city secretary's website, and there is no liaison and there is no department assigned to it. Most of commissions and advisory boards have a liaison, a department tied to it. So that might be another request that can be made to the city manager to request if he's assigned it to a department or, a division of the city. But as of right now, it doesn't show on the record that it's assigned to a department.
The central business district.
Correct. So it doesn't look like it's tied to anybody.
Okay. I'll get with, I'll visit with the city manager I think by phone might be quicker and, or in person to get some of these responses.
Along with the representative for the Central Business District, I did request whatever redevelopment plan is in action at present, and there is not one.
All right. All right, Rick, you want to continue?
Sure. Item E, development of competitive procurement method for upcoming solicitations. I think we've already addressed this item at the previous meeting. I think we've made some confirmations with our purchasing department on what we're allowed to do as far as competitive procurement. So we'll be coordinating that with Mr. Chavez once we're ready to go out to bid, not only for phase one, but also the monument site. And then item F, phase one projects and ongoing design update. We do have some updates, quite a few actually, on the design pursuant to our meetings with the fire department. I'll ask.
Should we jump into the action item?
Yes. we
Okay,
can do
so
that.
I'll move on to action item 8, update presentation and discussion with possible action relating to TERS number 1, ongoing phase 1, improvement design work in coordination with the City of Laredo departments as may be required or requested by the design team. This is kind of a standing write-up for this item with a few amendments here and there. Rick, go ahead.
So I think at the last meeting, we were asked to relook at Zaragoza. We had presented an option with some different renderings, and I think that what was asked, is there any way we can put the buildings in the back of the rendering so we can really get a sense of what it's like? So we worked on that, and so now that kind of gives you a better idea of what that streetscape is going to look like with the buildings in the back. Again, we have the walls with the handrails. We lowered the walls. I think there was some concern as to the height of the wall blocking too much of the view to the businesses in the back. So again, this is the view there with the steps at the corner next to the tall building in the corner of Salinas and Zaragoza.
That looks great.
Yeah, it looks very good.
So it's got, I think it gives you a sense for what it's really going to look like, right? I think that really, really helped. You know, it's just decals on a wall, but I think it looks really good. We were real happy with how it turned out.
But can we see the corner of Convent in Zaragoza?
Yes. We're getting there. So I'm just going down the street. So here's what it looks like in front of Ueta. There's the little ramp that Ueta asked for with the trees.
Oh, yeah.
Again, so here's the corner with the perfume shop and the steps. Again, we added a little planter there so that those steps had something straight to die into because we're kind of coming in at a weird angle. You can see the steps stepping down. And that's from the corner looking back up the street, so you can get a sense of what that looks like. So the other thing that this shows is that the power poles, we're moving them to the north side.
North side, yes.
And we actually, and Edward can go into more detail, but we actually did receive a cost from AEP to move those poles. It's $125,000 to do that. We also had another subsequent walk with AEP with their underground infrastructure group. They were more of, I think they told us the cost to take everything underground was like $2 million per block.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay. So, and right now, they only currently have underground up to the corner of Grant and Convent. So, Grant and Convent, right?
Grant and Convent, yes.
Yes.
But
And-
all of Pitt Street is underground.
All of its street is underground, correct.
Yeah, well, the furthest south, we had asked them how far south does the current infrastructure go?
Oh, to Grant.
Yeah.
Grant.
So what they recommended, which we may end up doing, is since we're tearing up all these sidewalks, they said if you want, maybe in the future, we'll extend that service. We don't know if 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, whatever. But if we wanted to, we could leave some conduits buried in there so that if for some reason that service ever did get extended to us, well, then we could connect from there and bring everything underground. That was sort of like the best option because I know we don't have $2 million to bring it to us. But at least we did have that conversation with AEP, and so we have a good sense of what that is going to take to complete. So with that, I'll pass it on to Edward so that he can go through sort of the changes that he talked about with the various city departments.
Okay. Again, Edward Ochoa with KCI for the record. So we did meet this last month with the fire department. We also conducted a kind of a field exercise with the fire department. They brought their trucks out there again. And we looked at the Convent intersection, which we call Block 1, Convent Zaragoza. And we also looked at Santa Ursula Iturbide, which is our Block 5. Those were the two main areas that they kind of come in and out of, I guess, from an operational standpoint. So they wanted to visit those areas, and so we did a field exercises, call it that, with them, and took pictures, measurements, put out cones. That was the, I think we mentioned it at the last meeting here, that we were going to coordinate to where we could mark in the field or stake out where our proposed curb line would be so that they could get a sense of what our design would be, and then we would get a sense of how the truck would operate. So what we ended up doing was we did that in the field with them. We put out cones, so we used our survey equipment to essentially stake out where our proposed curb would be, and we set a cone in those locations. So we marked it up for them and then had them kind of run through it. So, yeah, we've got some videos to show you of kind of how they ran through some of the scenarios in the field, but just kind of wanted to give you a summary of that field exercise. So part of that field exercise resulted in them going back, taking the information, us going back and taking the information. And then we met, as Rick said, we met about a week and a half ago with them at their office and got kind of some final comments. And so that's kind of what you see here. So going to the slides, this is our Block 1 exhibit and design. So let me zoom in here. So kind of as Rick said, just minor updates that we did here. In front of the perfume business right here, you'll see this is kind of a set of steps that essentially fade away. Rick showed that in the rendering just a minute ago. You've got the little flower bed, and so we made some of these updates as part of what the architect team did. But here at the intersection, what we ended up doing was, you'll see it in the video, but the design iteration we had before brought the curb, if you kind of follow my hand here, brought the curb out about this far out and then came back. And when they did that, and again, you'll see in the video, one of their fire trucks worked fine and the other one ran over the cones. So that's an adjustment that we decided, okay, let's reevaluate that for their larger truck. And so now we've made the adjustment now. And so the curb line or the road line would essentially be here. What we're doing again here, we've got some updates to do here. So this is not kind of a final exhibit, but the idea here is that the sidewalk would be brought down to the same level as the roadway. So this across this location here would essentially be at grade. We need to coordinate this with the traffic department. One thing that we're probably going to look at doing is placing potentially some bollards or something here that would help protect the pedestrians if a large vehicle tries to make that maneuver through there. So we've got some things to add to that. We're going to work on coordinating those final details out. But this design that we show here will work for both the city's ladder truck that they use, the first ladder truck that reports to the site, and their second, which is their larger ladder truck that reports to the site. So this intersection will work for both.
Does it work for you all's design intent?
Yes, it does. I mean, going back from when we started to where we are now, it's different. If you recall some of the initial some of the initial design ideas we looked at doing was, creating bump outs, bringing the curb out so that the pedestrians have a shorter walking path. Obviously, as we start to meet with everybody and evaluate everything, it's kind of curtailed things back a little bit. But, I mean, personally for me, I think, we've kept the main design idea, and that's trying to enhance some of the pedestrian movements through here. So I think this is, in coordinating with all the departments and making sure everybody is satisfied with these design upgrades that we're doing. I think it works for us, kind of enhancing pedestrian. Not exactly what we wanted, but it is an improvement to the pedestrian.
I would add that at one point, we had showed you all, that ring around the center of the street, sort of to welcome. That pretty much doesn't work anymore, just because we don't have enough room to set the posts.
Put the pole,
Yeah,
pole.
so that was sort of the casualty of this.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Rick, but we did remove that from the last time. We had looked at putting some posts that would potentially maybe sit here, 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 and here type of thing. That would hold maybe a ring, which would turn into a welcome sign, but that didn't really pan out as we started to go through things with the different departments, fire department being one of them. So this is pretty much near what our final design concept would look like at the intersection, pending coordination with the traffic department. That's going to be our final coordination. I've met with him before over the phone and had some lengthy conversations about design ideas and concepts and things we can do and things that he wanted me to review and look at before. I did talk to him and say, we're going to meet with the fire department, let me get through that, and then we'll come back with a final design to traffic. So we've got, we'll have a meeting scheduled for traffic with the traffic department, hopefully between now and the next meeting, to finalize any final comments on that.
Mr. Demay, comments?
Yeah, I was going to ask, if we are moving this to grade level, have we taken into consideration, flooding or anything else? I don't know Laredo that way that much, if it rains a lot, but.
For as long as you've been here, it hasn't rained, I think, right?
It hasn't,
Rained
in
today.
a couple of weeks I've been here, but
Yeah.
I just don't know the normal cycle
Sure.
for out here.
Yep.
So I'm just curious if we've taken that into consideration
Absolutely.
when we've done this.
So throughout the project, we are taking that into consideration. Specifically at this intersection, when you go to this intersection, there's a considerable drop-off going north to south down Convent Street. It pitches pretty good. So we don't have any drainage or runoff concerns at this particular intersection because there's sufficient runoff, sufficient slope at this intersection.
Okay, just the people coming around those, corners there, and especially, ADA compliant, somebody's going through, I didn't want them going through puddles because it was so low, so I just
Sure.
wanted to ask.
Yes,
Sorry.
sir. Excellent question. We do have some of those scenarios in other intersections that we've had to take some extra look at. Some of these streets in downtown Laredo have some old drainage systems and some old cross slopes that are real funky, and so we've done our best to accommodate our design into that. But drainage is something, and so kind of to answer to your question, the existing curb line along this street, which is Zaragoza, the existing curb line is about right here. And you can see here, this is an existing curb inlet, right here at this location. We're widening the sidewalk, or we're widening the pedestrian path here about 5 or 6 feet. So we're leaving our curb inlet there, and the design that we have is to create kind of a grate top right in there that will still allow the water to drain into the existing curb inlet. Okay. So we're looking at that the best that we can. So, thank you. So this was Convent Zaragoza, and again, one of the other updates I will add, one of the last comments that we got from the fire department was they feel like they feel like that when they have cars parked on the side, it restricts their ability to maybe turn and maneuver or they're fearful of maybe hitting a car. So, because a lot of times you get cars that may want to park closer and closer to the intersection. On this particular side, they did request from us that if we could extend this is a bump out that we're doing here in front of the taxi loading area. They asked us if we can extend this out so that it essentially doesn't allow somebody to park too close to the intersection. This particular intersection was one of concern to them, because they had a little bit of a harder time maneuvering through it. So they asked that request of us. We talked to it as a design team. We ended up moving that curb line. So this curb and this bump out portion that you see right here shifted west, I'm not quite sure, about 10 or 15 feet or so, about 15 feet. So we, again, just kind of an accommodation that we made for the fire department that they had asked for, we didn't see an issue with. So those are kind of the little things that we kind of went through and talked to with them. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. On which one, I'm sorry? So in this area, the discussion you're talking about is striping the no parking fire lane at the intersection. We will be showing that part. We will have a set of plans that will note that. So what Rick is mentioning is, if you look at a lot of the intersections in downtown, and we saw it also as we were doing that angled parking at the Center for the Arts area, is at the intersections, the fire department paints the curb red and puts no parking fire lane. And that's their way of, you know, discouraging people from parking at the intersections, or it gives them, I believe somebody said, it gives them a mechanism to tow or fine somebody, right, if they do violate that area. So we did no parking, they did no parking fire lanes at the intersection. They asked us at several of these intersections to go ahead and keep those no parking fire lanes in different spots. So we will accommodate that with our striping plan. And one of them was here at the Salinas intersection on the west side of this block one. Continuing through the slides, again, Rick kind of went through these renderings already. We've made those updates to our construction plans to follow the renderings that were done. This is a supplemental exhibit. Ms. Alexander, you had requested at the last meeting about some information on the south side of Zaragoza and what we had survey-wise. So we just put together this supplemental exhibit for you just to show a little bit about what we have. So again, this is a convent intersection here. We reviewed our survey files. We do have survey information for the south side of Zaragoza, where we surveyed and tied the elevations of all the steps and then the curb line. And there are some steps between the curb and the sidewalk also. So you have a step up this way, and then you have a step down this way, right, in certain spots.
Yeah, and those steps are like,
Yeah,
not
some
like
of
a
them,
full
they
step,
they
yeah.
get kind of thin, and some of them get kind of thick. So all I did here was we went ahead and just labeled the different spots of where you can see the steps. What we do not have, and as I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, we don't have detailed elevations of the finished floors of the doors on the south side like we do on the north side. On the north side, since we were doing improvements on that side, we went ahead and got some detailed finished floor elevations of the building, so that it allowed us to determine how we were going to layer things out with the sidewalk. So I just wanted to present this exhibit to you. We'd be happy to email it to you if you'd like. But I hope this answers, I think, maybe the question you had last time as far as what information we had here.
well, Mr. Ceballos is the one that said that you all could, that you probably had that information, and be nice if we could do both sides of the street, so.
Yeah, I mean, any directions you want for us to take, you know, on that moving forward, we're happy to answer it and look into it. But as far as the information that we have to date, we did survey both sides of the street and have, I think, sufficient information to draw stuff and kind of get to this point. But if we needed to do, or if we were directed to do a design for the south side of Zaragoza, we would need to probably take some a little bit more additional field information And of course, if we're looking at doing a design for that, it'd be a kind of supplemental agreement we would have to work on that.
Does match line mean Salinas Street, or doesn't go all the way?
No, ma'am, the match line just means that if you cut this page here and pasted it here, it would extend kind of out that way.
Oh, so maybe that would be like right in front of that curb.
So yes, ma'am, this
That
match
right
line actually continues here.
Oh, okay.
You would be the match line.
Oh, there's Salinas, okay.
Yep. So this would be Convent, and this gets you about half block, and then the other half block would be from here to
So then
Salinas.
no more stairs, no more steps, I mean, on the south side.
Yes, ma'am. So on the south side, starting on the Salinas side, you probably can get about halfway where there are no steps. And then the steps start as you get to the eastern half of the block on the south side. So yes, ma'am, you're right. There are no steps from Salinas here up to about halfway. And then you've got one step, and then two steps, and then there at the very end, you've got 3 steps. This is where there's that power pole with the transformer. Everything's real kind of cluttered right in that area where those 3 steps are at.
That's the power art there,
Yes.
the art.
Okay, I'll continue on. So as Rick mentioned earlier, we've been coordinating with AEP. One of the directions that we got from the board was to visit with AEP and ask them about what it would cost and what it would look like to clean up this first block I'm still on the block of Zaragoza Salinas, and clean up the block. Right now, you currently have overhead lines on the north side and on the south side, and you've got lines that kind of crisscross, long diagonals all over the place on that block. So AEP did get back with us this month, and so what you see here is essentially their design concept, and I'll kind of zoom in and try to go through this quickly. But this is Convent right here, and this is Zaragoza. So this is the first corner, and here's the Perfume and Ueta right in here. So what they're proposing to do is, as we're looking at this exhibit, they've got an overhead line that runs along the south side of Block 2, which is right in front of the Bridge of the Americas, where the pedestrians come out. So on that side, the line currently comes here. What you see in blue is the existing, and what you see in red is what they propose to do, and they propose to take out what's in blue. So currently, right now, there's an overhead line that goes at this long diagonal across the intersection of Convent. What they're proposing to do here is take that out. There is also a line that goes on the south side of Zaragoza over Convent this way. So they propose on taking both of these lines out as they cross the intersection. It looks to me like they are taking an existing pole here. They're going to cross Zaragoza over on east of Convent, set some new poles here, and then they'll continue. What you see in red is their new line. So they want to continue a new line. And I'm going to kind of go down the screen here. Everything in red will now have a new line on the north side of Zaragoza. And if you look, this is Salinas. If you continue west on Salinas Street, that's where the steel poles are currently at. That was done as part of the improvements with the outlet shops, right? So now you'll have, the outlet shops have their steel poles on the north side.
Don't connect to it.
They would connect to it and line up with it. So that's generally the design that they came up with. And as Rick mentioned, this is just kind of a snippet from the email that we got, but their total cost that they presented to us to do these upgrades as shown is about $125,000, $124,634, and $84. So this is just a snippet from the email. We just kind of snipped it so you can see.
Do we know if the poles are the same as the outlet shops, or?
They did mention that these would be steel poles.
Oh, great.
So
Really?
the new poles would be steel
For
poles.
that price?
Yeah. Yes, sir. These would be steel poles.
That's still good.
I would need to confirm if some of the existing poles that need to remain would just get replaced out with steel, or if they're literally just going to remain to what they are. I need to just confirm that detail. I'm not quite sure. And those poles that I'm talking about, just for reference, are these green poles. On the layout that they gave us, here it is. green poles, everything you see in green is existing, or they're gonna transfer facilities, is what they note. So my question I need to go back to them on is, what do you mean by, do you mean transfer facilities, like you're just gonna transfer the overhead lines and leave the pole? Or are you gonna put a new steel pole and transfer the facilities to the new steel pole, right? So I can work on getting confirmation on that. But, that was, that's our update on the AEP utility relocation. So, from our perspective, what we'll do is we just received this a day or two ago. We're gonna look at placing these proposed pole locations on our site plan just to make sure that we don't have anything that we're building that's gonna be in the way. I guess it's up to the board or the city or whoever about how you all want to proceed with this cost or with these improvements. But we'll make sure on our plans that we leave room for these poles to be placed when and if the city decides or the TERS board decides to move forward with it. I'm going to go ahead and move on to,
I have a question maybe
Yes, ma'am.
that, connected to AEP, because I know that I went to a presentation where, whatever department is in charge of signage, and connected to the murals, there was a lot of rules connected to what kind of signs can go up, what color they can be, you know, how often they can operate, how high they can be, all that. But it seems like AEP is operating without any restriction or requirement to be safe or aesthetically appealing. They have that ball of wire, I don't know, electrical line, but how come there's no requirement that they clean up their stuff, why is it a cost to us to clean up their mess?
that would be a question for AEP. I'm not sure what kind of agreement they have with the city or how the details of the public utilities within right-of-way works. I believe there is something in there about, there's some kind of rules, don't quote me on this, whether it's state rules or federal rules about utilities being in public right-of-way and who pays for the cost if things need to get moved or relocated. I'm sure the utility company would be much more, would probably be the person to answer that question better than me.
So maybe we can invite the utility companies here with pictures of this street and what they have created there.
I mean, they're aware, we
They're
walk
aware.
with them.
So when we walked this particular block with the utility companies, we did have Spectrum and AT&T also, which Spectrum and AT&T many times will hang on the same utility poles as AEP, right? They tend to all share the same utility poles. They did walk with us. They did express that if they needed to come in and clean that up, if AEP was gonna come in and relocate things, then they would come in and relocate their facilities also, and at that same time, go ahead and clean up and get rid of things that are not there or not serving a business or home anymore. I mean, not to make excuses for them, I guess, but I'm pretty sure over time in downtown, you know, they come and they bring services to different businesses and take them out, and maybe when they take them out, they just roll up the line and leave it on the pole, and it just stays there, you know. Nobody comes back for it. I'm not sure how that works or what their policy is on that.
Right, but if there's a business owner or property owner that does something like that, there will be a knock at the door, you know, clean up your mess, because the requirement, it doesn't seem like anybody is requiring the utility company to clean up their own mess. And then they give us a bill of $124,000 to clean up what seems like is in their wheelhouse anyway. I know you can't answer that question, but that's a concern to me, that if I did that at our building, you know, had a big electrical wire ball of a tumbleweed of wire hanging outside, and I made it neon, I would certainly get someone's attention.
Yeah, so I guess just from the exercise that we were asked to do, we've coordinated with the 3 utility companies that tend to hang on the poles. And AEP acknowledged that the poles were theirs, and so a relocation would have a cost to it, and this was a cost that was presented.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, again, I'm not quite sure if there's any other avenues that can be taken by the city to address these costs or incorporate these costs differently. That's certainly a question between the city and the public entity.
Public utility law question too. So
Correct.
It's kind of beyond our scope here.
Yeah.
I do want to thank you for at least communicating with them about this plan looks better than what's happening there.
So Edward,
So it does, in my opinion, it does clean it up quite a bit. You can see that several of the angled crossings are
Yeah.
now going to be perpendicular to the road. So we all understand that they still need to be there, but I think they did a good effort in this.
Yes.
if I may ask you, so do you expect that the other utilities, as well, the internet providers, would charge a cost to force them to relocate? Was that discussed?
We discussed that when we met several months ago with them. They didn't obviously give us a cost, but they said that depends on what AEP's design was, which, again, we just got this recently, so we'll share this with the other utility providers and try to ask that question. But they said depends on what AEP does and where they move the poles, and we'll have to, nobody really gave us that answer. I would anticipate that there may be some cost. I wouldn't expect it to be this much, of course, because the vast majority of this cost, I think, is the work and the effort to relocate the poles.
Right.
So, but our next step is to go ahead and take this exhibit that AEP provided to us, share it with Spectrum and AT&T, and ask them to let us know what it would take to move their facilities to here, and if there's any costs associated with that, to let us know, and we would share that with you all.
I know you were focused on Zaragoza, but was there any discussion, because there are poles, there are some underground, did they give you any inclination of any other areas where they might be transitioned to steel poles or underground, just for our future development, if it's going to impact, down the road?
So when we walked with the 3 utility providers, we walked also the second block of Zaragoza, which is the one in front of the Bridge of the Americas pedestrian entrance. And in that particular block, everybody kind of seemed to agree that there wasn't really much they could do in the way of moving poles, but that they would certainly clean up the overhead lines in that area. But the poles would kind of stay where they were at, but they would relocate the lines. AEP's main focus, and I think it was just the area that we had asked them to really focus on, was this first block of Zaragoza. And this one had, I guess, kind of the most impact, I guess, from a design perspective for AEP. On block 2, there wasn't a whole lot to really be done. I believe there are some steel poles on block 2, if I'm not mistaken, at least 1 or 2 that have been upgraded over time. But they did agree that they would work on cleaning that up too. I can look into see if that would be additional to this cost.
So I want to make sure, was your question, are they coming in with new projects to go underground or to extend with steel poles or concrete
Yes,
poles?
that was more like,
No.
I know we were focused on this street
Yeah.
in particular for this project, but if they hinted or suggested that
We
there was gonna be
particularly
any-
asked the underground rep if they had any plans to grow the underground network, and that's not in anything he could foresee, that they pretty much were completed. If something came up where they had a new project, then they would work with that property owner to service it. So that's where the comment about getting to Zaragoza underground on Convent came up for us to leave things stubbed out. So if there's ever, I think the network could handle it, but it's just tearing up Convent to do that. So that's what I remember, Edward. I mean, it was generally a no, that they weren't really
Yeah.
working on a new project to extend.
They were not working, my understanding too was that they were not working on a new project. And then certainly, as Rick mentioned earlier, they did throw out a very rough general cost of about $2 million a block to take the current infrastructure and go underground. And so, when you add that to you know, when you add that to our project.
Block is our budget.
That's our budget. That's our budget to put one block underground, so. You know, they were very cooperative and provided a lot of information to us, which we took in, but there's nothing, as we mentioned earlier, their current underground infrastructure kind of stops at Grant Street. And so when you go out there to the field, you know, we were out there looking at it, it made a lot of sense. You can kind of see where the overhead lines are. And then you get to a certain point and there's no more overhead lines, well, because that's where the underground infrastructure that they've built currently exists, so. Okay, if that's all the questions, I'll go ahead and proceed on here. So this is just an exhibit that, I'll go through this real quick. This is the same block number 1. We just wanted to show here. Basically what we added here is this is the fire truck movement going through that intersection with our current design. So we presented this to the fire department. As you can see here, this is kind of what they were talking about. As you can see here, this green line is essentially either the front bumper or the rear bumper overhang of the truck. The red line that you see here and here, the red line is the wheel path. So you can see the truck's wheels stay very clearly on the pavement area, but this fire truck has, you know, a bumper in the front and kind of, it really hangs up quite a bit in the front, and then they've got a bigger tail section that hangs off the rear axle. And so we use a program, I think we mentioned it before, but for Mr. DeMay's purpose, AutoCAD, we use a program that takes these vehicle templates and allows us to kind of analyze turning movement. So here we did use the pretty near, almost exact the large fire truck of the fire department. So it was I forget what it was exactly called, but it was like a 95 fire truck, something 95. And so again, we presented this to the fire department. You can see that the fire truck with our current design works just fine. You will see that there is a little bit of a bumper overhang here, and that's kind of why they requested, well, if somebody's really parked all the way up to the edge of this curb, you know, we could hit them. Could you extend that out? And so we did bring that out to about right here in what I showed earlier. And then you can see that they've got some overhang that kind of occurs over on this spot also. And so, but the vehicle turns and it works just fine. So we just wanted to kind of present that. This is, again, with almost every design change that we do, we're running this analysis, you know, right after it to see if it works. So there's a lot of checks and cross checks as best as we can. I think this is one of the videos. So let's see if it works here real quick, but let me explain this picture. So this is looking down Convent. So we're standing on the east side of the intersection. For those of you who've been there, the Casa de Cambio side that's there on the east side. And we're looking down our Convent, Zaragoza Street, I'm sorry, looking down that way. The locations, again, what we did is we staked out where our proposed design would be is where we set the cones. So you can see these cones we put here, and again, I will say that these cones here, this was the old design, right? So this was the old design that you'll see we had to, it doesn't work, we had to redo it. And then these cones over on the opposite side of the street are the adjustments that we're making on the curb on the south side at the intersection, so. It might not play. I'm not sure. There we go. Well, it opened up another window. I'll give it a shot. Everybody see that? So this is his larger vehicle, and you can see right there on that inside, he was already running over the cones.
He had plenty of space up front.
You will see that he took the cones on the inside. You will see that he has to stop because over on this side, I don't know if the video will get to it, but over on this side, there it is. There's an existing tree that's right there and their basket hangs over. So as it sits today, without any improvements for us doing any improvements, they have an issue with that tree. And they do have to, you'll see he backs up and then goes forward on that. That's the only video we had on that intersection? I'm sorry? On that one, yes, okay. So what we did, just real quick, what we did on our design is these cones are now, this radius now comes in a little bit, it comes in further this way and kind of lines up with this curb line going this way. So we've made that adjustment already. We visited with them as a follow-up to this field exercise. We visited with them and showed them what it would look like, the analysis that I just showed, and they were, seems like they were okay with it. I'll kind of go quickly through this on block 3. We've just continued to do some updates on block 3. This is the Tangelo Parkway blocks. The last thing that we've been working on with the design team was framing out the existing trees as kind of landscaped areas. And then basically what we're doing is just taking all the existing bricks that are on the sidewalks and the roads, removing them, regrading things and replacing them back in the same spot. So just had that sheet in there, but kind of minor updates that we've been doing on there. Block 4 is the other block of San Agustin, which is the other block of the Tangelo Parkway. Again, same thing. Our envision here is to have everything brick as it currently is, just removed, regraded, and replaced. I will say that there is a portion right in here that is an AEP underground duct bank that has some doors that they swing open to get access to. When we met with them in the field, they told us they did not want us to touch that, leave it at the grade it is, just work around it. So we've had to adjust our grading surface around it. Minor adjustments, it really wasn't a big deal. But that area will be concrete. They want it to stay concrete, so we're accommodating that. But we've got, what we're proposing is a trench drain essentially down the middle of the road here to kind of help capture all the runoff water. And then the idea is we'll tie that trench drain down to an existing storm drain system that runs also parallel down the road. So we'll be working on a detail to handle that.
Have you selected the grate that you're going to use there?
We are very likely going to detail out a Dura trench type of grate. Certainly we'll provide a specific detail and then, leave it open if the contractor can maybe come up with a few options or an equal alternate from a design perspective that's a better cost for us, and then we'll be acceptable to that. But we will provide, we're looking at providing kind of a Dura trench. Currently, the Dura trench design seems to be one of the ones that we're leaning more towards. So we'll provide a detail and let an alternate bid come in.
And Edward, from edge to edge, generally less than the 2% or 2% and below?
What do you mean by edge to edge? Like
Edge.
kind of coming into the trench drain this way?
Is it all walkable?
It'll all be walkable. This has probably been one of the more challenging blocks from a grading perspective because you've got the finished floor of the buildings on the west side are higher than the one on the east side by about 6 to 7 inches in some cases. And so it creates a challenge. I can make this one flat, but then this one's going to be steep to get to the same elevation. So we've been playing around with that. It's looking like we will create a good amount of surface that's 2% or less for ADA accessibility, but very likely some portion of the street will be in excess of 2%, but will still be less than 5%, which is the other ADA minimum, or maximum, I'm sorry. So ADA allows 5% from a longitudinal perspective, but it might be a little bit for a cross slope. Yeah, as we've really tried our very, very best to make these areas 2% or less in all directions, but this particular block has been pretty challenging in doing so because of the existing improvements that we're having to match up to.
You also said that we would take the same brick and reset it. Is that correct? Or are we bringing in new brick?
I'm not quite, I guess we'll visit with the design team a little bit more about that. whether or not we want to use new brick or not. I don't know what,
Yeah.
sorry to put you on the spot on
No, it's
that. I
okay.
might have misspoke, but,
Yeah,
um,
I think we're still evaluating that. I think we'd like to just reuse what's there. It's good material, but I don't know. Once we get into it, we don't know how much we can salvage, so.
You could price both, right? You could say, give me a price for what.
we could definitely put an alternate, put an alternate bid for all new brick, and then put a bid for, you know,
Resetting.
resetting the existing bricks. So-
It might be cheaper to do new brick, believe it or not.
It-
They don't have to mess with taking care of it, collecting it, storing it.
There is certainly a challenge, and I've experienced that in a couple of projects downtown. It's quite a challenge for a contractor to have to salvage the brick by taking it out carefully. It doesn't give them
Do
the
it by
freedom just to
hand.
take a
I guess you gotta do
a
that by
a
hand.
dozer and just rip it all out, right? If they're not gonna reuse it, they're just gonna take a dozer and rip it all out.
Yeah.
And the demolition portion of the job, I think, would be much cheaper if they're allowed to do that versus, hey, remove the bricks, stack them up, salvage them, be careful, and then put them back. So
Yeah.
we'll look at that. I apologize, I might have misspoke on that from the design team, but we'll look at evaluating that the best we can. But, so moving on down here, this is block number 5. So just the update here with the fire department again. This was another intersection, southbound Santa Ursula turning west onto Iturbide. Both of their fire trucks ran this maneuver, their regular aerial truck and their larger aerial truck, and our design had no issues with that. So they were just fine with our design. The only comment that they had, and you saw it on the video a minute ago, as they make a turn, anything on the outside of their turn that's hanging over or in the right of way, like a tree or a canopy or whatever, tends to be a hazard to them or an obstacle to them, right? And so they've asked us to be mindful of putting trees or power poles or signs too close to the intersection on that outside. They said, if you want to do stuff like that, if you want to put a tree, put it on the inside of the intersection closer, right? So we're looking at evaluating that here. I think here we ran the truck and I think they were able to clear this tree. So, but that's something we looked at with them. But again, this design worked just fine with them. So this is kind of the design approach that we're looking at doing there. And then going through, one thing that they asked us, I think one of the last presentations we did here with the TERS board was we talked about potentially lining up the trees across from each other on the block, so that would give them a place to load, put their booms down if they had to raise the aerial truck. In visiting with them, they said they didn't really like that idea after all. They felt like their truck might be a little constrained driving through a narrow spot. So they asked us to stagger the trees so that their truck has a little more flexibility driving through, which was actually our first design concept from the very beginning. So we were happy to hear that. So you'll see that, our trees are kind of staggered apart here and there now. We took out that previous design concept we looked at. So I think this is a video on Santa Ursula. I'll see if this one will play also. So again, you see here the cones were set out at the location of where our proposed design would be.
Nice.
Sorry, there was sound on that one. I'll play that one again with a little less sound. So you can see on that inside, he cleared the cone pretty well. And this is their larger truck, the AT2 is their larger vehicle. So that worked out fine. This is at the next intersection, which is Iturbide San Bernardo. They were looking at coming up, in case they had to come up San Bernardo and turn onto Iturbide. So that's what you're going to see here. So they're coming south to north on San Bernardo, and this is the smaller truck that they had here. So they made that turn no problem with our current design. So that was okay. They did agree, and again, as Rick mentioned, I do want to say that the fire department has been very, very helpful and has worked with us, I think, very, very well. As Rick mentioned earlier, this whole concept and design that we're implementing is causing a lot of variances on their part, and they've been willing to work with us on that. So I do want to say that they've done a very good job in working with us. They did, at this particular intersection, they did say that their larger ladder truck would not likely make that maneuver. Based on how they operate, they typically will send the first ladder truck in, and they'll stage the second ladder truck somewhere down the road nearby. And the second ladder truck is just on standby, which is the larger one. And if they need the second ladder truck, then they'll send it to the location. But because that truck is on standby, it gives them a few minutes potentially to game plan how to get there if they've got some constraints on some of the streets. So they've kind of agreed that, you know, some of these blocks, again, they can work with us potentially on that. So this worked out pretty well for us. I'm just going to continue to go through this. This is block 6. Again, this is San Bernardo. The only update we did here again is we staggered the trees instead of having them next to each other. That's been pretty much the main update on that one. And that's all I had as far as my updates. Just to add a couple from my notes here, just to give you all some updates. Rick and I have a meeting scheduled with the utilities director on Thursday, where we're going to go ahead and kind of give him a final update of our design, and then coordinate with him if there's any improvements that he wants to do on any of our blocks that, you know, we're coming close to getting started. Let's coordinate those blocks, right? And so we'll meet with him on Thursday for that. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to work on scheduling a meeting with the traffic director also to kind of present this final design that we adjusted with the fire department, and then, you know, see if he has any final comments that we need to address. So those are the 2 pending meetings that we have left.
Are you asking the board to approve anything today, or do you have some pending meetings?
No, sir. I mean, I don't think so. I think really for us is, you know, it's taken some time to do some of this coordination, but I think it's been very important and very vital for our design. But I guess allow us to go ahead and check off those last boxes with some of the departments and finalize our construction plans, and then we'll go ahead and get a final set of construction plans with details and specs and everything with the design team that we can present to the board as soon as we can, as final. Yeah, my next submittal will be final.
So you will be coming to the board for publication at the next meeting of final of the solicitation?
I hope so. Let's see what the departments say as far as any changes. I really do hope so.
That sounds like a yes.
Mr. Ochoa?
I hope so.
I have a question.
It needs to be done. Yeah, I mean, we're ready to submit to. We're ready to finish this off.
Go ahead.
For all that the videos were enlightening with the fire truck. But is there any way that you could show the first one of the fire truck turning onto Convent Street? You don't have to play the video, but I just wanted to illustrate to the board that this is the street that relocation of if you look at the utilities right now,
Yes.
what that looks like. And so we were gonna do improvements if that doesn't change. That's the aesthetic presentation.
Oh, so
We should get it done.
what you're mentioning is this pole and this
Well,
pole.
Yeah,
Got that
well,
mix.
you can't see everything but that is, I'm trying to understand why they just aren't required to go in there and fix that now. And also, this is also the street that will only get attention on the north side. So the north side will be improved and the south side will continue to look just the way it does now. And this is the actual entrance to the United States where the where the traffic comes in right there at that intersection.
Yeah, we will be in a much better place. They're taking in a little bit of that corner, phase two, which is the Salinas, will take in a bit of the corner on the other side. So we'll have a compressed or smaller section of that south section to address, during phase two, which we talked about a couple of meetings ago. I have a
That was all
question
I
for
had.
Rick. So, when we go out, are your drawings ready for the monuments?
Yes,
So this will also be part of that?
yes.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else on the board? So I think the next meeting will be looks to be the final meeting to get the solicitation done. All right.
And then
We hope so.
we will get, once the plans are final and it goes out to bid, then we will get a cost breakdown for each one of the phases. I mean, for each one of the,
That's a great question. Are you preparing a probable cost estimate?
We've been working on that, yes. And the approach that we are taking is kind of item and then by block. So I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Really breaking down the quantities on a block by block basis. So as an example, you may have a line item that says concrete sidewalks. So then we'll have block one, so many square feet, block two, so many square feet, and so on. So we've been working on breaking it down in that manner. So then that'll allow us to, I guess, apply our probable unit costs in that manner, and then should give us an idea on a block by block basis. Certainly some blocks are more expensive than others on the improvements, right? So yes, to answer your
Do
question.
we want to bid it out per block?
Oh, bid it out per block? I think that's a procurement question, maybe.
I mean, I
I'm not
guess
sure.
what I'm saying is, we bid out the whole project, but we want them to itemize block by block.
I think we can have them, if we give the unit cost breakdown on a block by block basis, we can have them provide, or we can see their breakdown, the bidder's breakdown on a block by block basis.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, I'm not sure what the limitations are in,
Yeah, we wouldn't make the probable
Selecting.
cost public. I wouldn't want to make that public.
Yeah.
But you all should keep that to
Yeah.
yourself.
no, we've kind of been working through that.
Okay.
We'll
So be
make sure
prepared to
it's
give
fine.
us a recommendation, whether it's by block or altogether, I think you should
We
work
can
through
get
that.
with, we'll get with Ramon and
Yeah.
talk him through.
I think that's gonna be best to kind of get with Ramon.
Chairman, that's what I was gonna suggest, that these discussions can be done with our engineering department to first evaluate those cost estimates. If the engineer determines that the best approach would be like a deduct alternate, maybe we get a base bid for the whole project with some deductions, or if we say one section is add alternate. So there's different ways to, what you can say, phase out this project if we feel that based on his estimate, it's over what the budget is currently for this project.
And it is a competitive sealed proposal, solicitation, so that's going to help.
Yes, sir.
All right. It's 7:10. I don't want to keep folks any longer than we have to. Do we have any final questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh,
Move
actually,
to
we have
adjourn.
one other item. Is that what you're going to mention?
Yes, I would
Okay.
just move to approve those if we don't.
Okay,
move on
item
to
9 is discussion and possible action regarding invoices submitted by Able City and KCI Technology. Sorry about
Hey,
that.
they need to get paid.
Yeah, otherwise we won't get to a final next
We
month.
won't be,
We won't see that
we won't be at the next meeting.
The invoices are in your packet. I'll entertain a motion when you're ready.
Just a clarification, I would entertain just a motion to approve Able City's invoice. At the time, KCI's invoice is still being reviewed by the engineering department, so we didn't include it in your packet because we didn't have it ready.
Okay,
Like, the review was not complete.
okay.
Motion to approve the Able City
Motion to
invoice.
approve Able City by Mr. Heather. Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. And we'll bring back the KCI at the next meeting. Motion to adjourn at 7:10. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None. Motion passes. We're adjourned at 7:10. Thank you very much, everybody.